Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
And what's it gonna do?
It doesn't matter how you're doing. Woo! Wheeling, dealing, limousine right, jet flying.
Can you dig it, sucker?
Would you please shut the hell up?
You don't know what hard times are, Daddy.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the human rubble.
What up, what up? It's another week of Keep the Kayfabe. I'm Mike, sitting here with my boys, ready to talk some wrestling. We got a fun one for you tonight, folks. We're ready to talk about the greatest factions and stables in wrestling history. We haven't done one of our all-time favorites in a while, and I thought, hey, what better night to do it after seeing such a great new stable established on AEW Dynamite just this last Wednesday night. And the reason I call it a stable is, I guess a stable is a culmination of wrestlers, but it needs a manager, and a faction is just a culmination of wrestlers. And that's what separates the two. But before we get into all that good stuff, let's introduce the boys real quick. Over in Glendale, let's talk to my guy, someone who keeps it regal, Steve Grobschmidt. How are you, Grabby?
North-south position. 69 me, Don. 69 me. Save me.
Holy cow.
That was a great line.
That was a good one. Could you
And
tell the
that-
folks at home what it's all about?
Yeah, that is how AEW made chicken salad out of chicken shit. They took the dud of an explosion at the pay-per-view, the ring that did not blow up, and they turned it in, like they hit it out of the park, like redeeming the whole thing by making it one big Don Callis and Kenny Omega joke that was designed to make Eddie Kingston and Moxley look bad. It was perfectly done.
Right. Well, and also I did kind of get it right about post-traumatic stress disorder with Eddie Kingston. He said the last time he felt that type of trauma was in the jail cell looking at other, inmates, and he's fearing for his life. But I thought, keep it in the streets, Eddie, because I didn't want to profile him as a criminal.
You
you
get credit for that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
For sure.
Let's go down to Bayview real quick, talk to someone who keeps it freshly squeezed, Mr. Matt Michelson. How are you, Matt?
No chance. That's what you got.
Pretty good. I love that. Mr. McMahon. I love it.
If only I could somehow do an audio version of the walk down to the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's all playing in our minds.
That's true.
Awesome. He lives in all of our heads. Taking up some more of our headspace here. Oh my God! It's Charlie Michael.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so. I don't think we've ever done that one.
I feel like Charlie does that one most weeks, actually.
Oh, really? Oh, I thought I was doing
Hey,
the
it's a
rock
classic.
Hey, at some point we're gonna run out of being able to do I can't keep track of which ones I've done.
one. Okay, I'll change it. What you gonna do when Hulkamania runs wild on you?
There you go.
Solid.
Well, once we reach 1,000 listeners, it really doesn't matter. So it's going to stay fresh for all of our growing audience. So,
They'll just love hearing me do it anyway.
oh, big time. Big time, boys.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
speaking of big time, something big happened on AEW. As I mentioned before we did our intros here, the Inner Circle did disband, as we were thinking, but maybe not in this way.
Big moment.
There was a little face-off between Jericho and MJF. They were going to do a double swerve. MJF was trying to get Santana and Ortiz and Hagar on his side to turn on Jericho. They get in the ring. What does Jericho do? He says, hey, boys, come over back to my side, and we're going to do the double switcheroo on MJF, which is pretty cool. I love a good double swerve. I mean, that's just wrestling right there. Textbook 101. I mean, it's old school for Jericho. It checks all the boxes with AEW, but we didn't see this coming, I don't think. Steve did mention, I think in a group text, that the Four Horsemen were kind of getting back together. Lights go out, and Sean Spears, FTR, Wardlow beaten the piss out of the Inner Circle, and there is a new stable in town, boys. In a promotion that is full of factions and stables, could this one be the biggest one? The new Four Horsemen: Wardlow, Sean Spears, FTR with Tully Blanchard, and MJF at the helm. I think this is going to be really exciting. What were your reactions, boys?
This was, we talked about this a little bit before we started recording. This to me was some of the best pro wrestling TV I've seen in a long time. Like, it had a total late 90s feel to it. Just the emotion, the twists, and I totally bought every bit of it. And I think everybody did too. I wanted to give my totally unbiased opinion on this podcast, but I couldn't help myself. I had to listen to some other podcasts to see how they were reacting to this as well. And my go-to favorite podcast, besides this one, of course, the What Culture podcast, they talked a little bit about this swerve and pointed out a couple interesting things. Like, I can't remember the specific details offhand, but there were other hints dropped earlier in the show and in past weeks, some of which had to do with Hangman Page, and just obvious things that were right in front of us the whole time, which we never caught. I'll have to go back and pull together a list, and maybe I'll put it up on our Instagram, but it just goes to show how amazing the booking, the storytelling, and the forethought that goes into some of these storylines is in AEW. Mike, you asked the question, is this really the biggest faction in AEW? I think the answer is yes, and I can explain why in one word, and that one word is Wardlow.
Oh yeah, dude, I am excited. This is what it needs. I love the makeup of this faction too. That Sean Spears needed something, but he is looking huge and ripped, but he just didn't know where he fit. FTR, Roughneck Brawlers. They got Tully Blanchard, an original Four Horsemen. Then you got young green Wardlow. That's like strapping him with a rocket on his back, shooting him to the top. This is what all great factions and stables do. Lots of times they have a young talent that they bring up, and there's one that I'll get to when we get down to our greatest of list that it worked out pretty successfully, and now he's the most popular man basically on the planet. But Charlie, did you get the chance to see it?
Yeah, I watched it. Like either that night or the next day. I thought it was a good move. Nice little swerve. I wish you guys kind of told me. I wish I would have watched it without knowing what was happening, but it was a good move. Be interesting to see now where they go with it going forward. How they kind of position themselves.
Right.
I think it's a strong faction.
You did ask for it though. You're like, tell me, and Matt was actually like, no. So sorry, it lost a little bit of the heat.
Well, I went and looked on one of the Facebook pages to see what went down. I couldn't wait.
Gotcha. That's cool, man. Steve.
Oh, I thought it was great. I'm sitting there, watching it as it unfolded, and then it seemed, when Sammy Guevara comes running out, I'm like, okay, they're dispensing with any surprises and just being kind of over the top with this. Like, it's so obvious, but then they pull that swerve, and it was so great. I mean, even as MJF was groveling, then I'm like, oh, I think I even said out loud to my wife, I think something's gonna happen. Like, there's a swerve.
This is too
and then
easy.
sure enough, it was like too easy. And yeah, it's so great. I just think I love everything about it. I think that and how you took the Inner Circle and instantly made them faces, which is no easy feat. And it's gonna be a lot of fun, a lot of good promos, a lot of good wrestling. Some friends of mine were lamenting that Sean Spears is part of it. They kind of view him as unimpressive, but it's like, okay, is he? Is he up? And I think also, guys like him serve a purpose. Okay, I mean, I think he's legitimately good, but you also, I mean, they're not going to win every single. Like, he's the guy on the team that can absorb a couple losses here and there. So
he's like the Mongo McMichael of the
wow, that's
Horsemen.
a little harsh,
but no, I know that.
But no, I mean, you can't have everybody on there like an A player that's going to like win every time. And I think he, when they need to knock a peg down, he might be the one to eat the loss, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, or this is just what the guy needs to like for us to really take notice, because there really isn't anything that Sean Spears does that makes me think he's a poor wrestler. I
Mhm.
just don't think he's got given like the opportunity or the story, because I don't know, he is just kind of hard like where he fits. So again, AEW is just loaded with groups, factions, stables. I mean, it's strength in numbers in this promotion. So, I mean, I'm happy that Wardlow and MJF are sticking together, plus teaming up with a great team like FTR. I'm excited about it, big
Yeah.
time. But
Hopefully,
Strength in
it gets
numbers.
FTR to the next level again. Get
mhm.
some good rivalries with them, and what are the Puerto Rican dudes?
Proud and the Powerful.
Powerful. Yep. So that'd be some
Do they
good.
even call him that
What-
anymore, or do they just call him Santana and Ortiz?
Yeah, I think it's just Santana Ortiz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve, I believe it's pronounced Santana and Ortiz if you're Justin Roberts.
Yeah. Classic.
One other thing I do want to mention just real quickly, you mentioned the strength of this faction. Speaking of strength, I think one of my favorite spots of this whole double twist segment was at the very end when MJF's new faction, who is still to be named, which we'll probably find out this week on Dynamite what they're officially going to call
The
themselves.
new Four Horsemen.
It's got to be, or the new Seven Horsemen, or however.
The
many.
problem is there's 5 active wrestlers on the team.
Yeah.
Right. But I think my favorite moment was at the very end when they're on the stage and Wardlow goes to powerbomb Chris Jericho off the stage through the tables, and you could tell Jericho wasn't quite ready for that spot. Like it seemed a little fumbled at first, but Wardlow is just so jacked. He did not care. He was just able to throw Chris Jericho up on his shoulders like no problem and totally save
Oh yeah.
the spot. It just goes to show like how jacked and just competent that guy is.
He and I noticed, like, I've always liked Wardlow too, like we all do, but he seemed particularly inspired. Like you could tell he was into it because he had an extra like spring in his step the whole segment.
I agree. And especially when they all posed on the runway and they were doing that little flex. I mean, their confidence was just booming.
You
that
could
night.
see Wardlow's traps from the front.
I'm excited. Oh,
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Okay. Yep. And speaking of fun, there's been a lot of fun factions and stables over the course of history in wrestling. It's just kind of what makes wrestling really great and what really gravitates you to these wrestlers, because the more they are of them, the more creative you can be, the better story they can build together. If one guy doesn't, talk real well, pair him up with somebody that does. And one that comes to mind is like the Fabulous Freebirds. Michael Hayes probably does it better than anybody else when it came to the talking. They were the ones that came out to the music early on. Steve,
Oh, yeah.
I probably
One of the very
stole
first.
this one off your. Yeah, I probably
You
stole
did.
this one off your plate.
No, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. This one was on my list, but I'm glad you brought him up.
Yeah, you got to mention them. I mean, they were the ones that started the music, getting the crowd riled up. I mean, they were like the Rolling Stones of wrestling in the South, basically.
Oh my God. And probably one of the most, like, in that era, one of the most despised factions. Like,
Yep.
because you had the ultra baby face Von Erich family in their native state, and then you got these outsiders from the like Atlanta and all that were just a bunch of assholes. And yeah, I mean, it was just fire. I mean, just one of the greatest feuds of all time.
Did you guys I mean, they were a little before me and Matt's time, but what were your guys' feeling between the Von Erichs and the Fabulous Freebirds? Like, what was that like for you guys? Because you were younger, that you were like probably ripe in like the glory days of that. Do you remember any of that when you were younger?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do. I didn't see it all because it was regional then, but I
True.
saw parts of it. But it was a great. I mean, it was a great feud. If you watch it, I'm sure you can see it
What
on
was their-
YouTube. The crowds. I mean, the
Oh
crowds.
my, they had
hot.
huge crowds.
They're so different. I mean, people were just because people love the Von Erichs down there. And they,
Right.
there was still at that time there was kayfabe, dude, and so they loved it. I tell you one. I mean, even though factions, but one of the biggest things. I mean, like you can see if you want to see real heat was when was it Ted DiBiase who blinded the Junkyard Dog in Mid-South?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was people were sending, if you I'm sure you guys heard the stories that people were sending money to Junkyard Dog because they thought he was going to be out of work and
That's
all that.
right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get that hot Southern Texas crowd, man. It was just good feuds. I mean, Von Erich, I mean, not Von Erich, but they worked, they worked the whole mid South, Southern up to the East
Yep.
Coast, North Carolina territory, at different times, just going crazy, man.
And,
You
that's
got
when,
Freebird music and
The magic
Mhm.
the magic of a faction like that is, I mean, by his own admission, Michael Hayes will say like he was like probably the worst worker out of all
oh
of
yeah,
them.
he said he was
But
horrible.
he
right?
was his personality was so over the top, and he was such
Yep.
an awesome heel that
Yep.
nobody remembers that. They just remember, he's a
Yep.
legend, but he
Yep.
didn't do much in the ring.
Yeah, he would take the heat. He'd get beat up, bounce around.
Yeah.
He would talk to. Yeah, they had a perfect faction. He would talk to shit. Gordy would back it up with the big man, and then was it Roberts?
Buddy Roberts.
Buddy
Buddy
Roberts.
Roberts was like the worker.
Yeah, the worker
Mhm.
and the guy. And he was little or smaller than those guys, and he was a guy that like the fans thought they could kick his ass, kind of thing. So it
Yeah.
was like it was just a great faction.
And in later years, they had a Jimmy Garvin, who I always liked Jimmy Garvin.
Oh,
He
I
was
like Jimmy
gorgeous.
Garvin.
Yeah, he was great. And
Yep.
he kind of matched Hayes with being the shit talker. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah. It was nice that when they were put in the WWE Hall of Fame, at least two of them were still alive, Hayes
Yeah.
and Garvin. I was
They
happy that they.
They partied hard,
Oh yeah,
which-
I mean,
which
yeah,
is amazing.
yeah.
Well, I heard the Von Erichs, like women would be making out with them, like on the
Oh
way
my
down to
God.
the ring
Oh, yeah,
when
they
they
would-
would
yeah.
face the Freebirds. I mean, they own that town. What was their dad's name?
Fritz.
Yeah.
Fritz Von Erich. I guess he was like, who's the legendary Alabama football coach? The Bear.
Mayor Bryant.
Bear
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was.
like,
yeah,
a
exactly.
base.
A
Yeah,
regional
like,
legend like Vern
Yeah.
Gagne was to
Mhm.
the AWA,
Oh, yeah.
where just around forever and just beloved.
Yep.
I just wish I was like, it just would have been so. That would be, like how you have concert regret. Like, man, if I was alive to see Jimi Hendrix or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly wish I was
Oh,
alive
totally.
to see a Von Erich versus Fabulous Freebirds in their prime.
Oh my gosh.
I just think that would just
Yeah.
be the greatest thing ever.
Oh, if you just go back, I mean, it's just insane. Just go back and watch those shows. You watch the match, but the best is just looking at the crowd because
Yes.
they just believe it, dude. It's just
Yeah.
so crazy
when-
how hyped up they are, dude.
Yeah. That's when it's like, this is a draw. Like, that's the difference
Yep.
between like WWE now and gate sales. Be like, okay, we sold these tickets and then here's the gate. I mean, people would line up for these people. I heard
Oh, yeah.
every week.
I don't remember.
Sell it out.
I don't remember if it was the Freebirds or like some other heel team, like one of Coronet's guys or something. But I remember one of them telling a story about how, just about the different era and how fans were super into it and believed it. But I remember one of them telling a story that there was this little old lady and she basically like
Yes.
loaded her purse with shit, like
Yeah.
so that she could hit the wrestler when they went
Yeah.
by. Yeah.
I thought that was Jerry the King Lawler, or
Yeah,
like
it was-
didn't somebody
you're right.
get stabbed?
Well, they'd have
all
to.
over
There was
the
a
place.
constant fear.
All
Yeah.
over,
Oh
yeah.
my God.
Yeah, but you're right, Steve, too. I knew there was like some little old lady that like went to a wrestling show because she saw it live on her TV and she got so angry she wanted to go down there and like fuck shit up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and Linda McMahon had to pay for it.
There, you happy?
Shout out to
Well,
our
that was some
buddy
good-
Greg the Hammer Valentine, friend of the channel.
Yeah.
Hey, Hammer. Thanks for listening, bud. Well, that was fun talking about the Birds and the Von Erichs.
You can't
Matt, do
talk
got one
factions
for us?
without the birds.
Of course. What do you got for us, Matt?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. So since we're in the 80s right now, roughly, I would say, I'm going to move us a little bit into the later 80s and into the good old WWF. You guys probably remember the Legion of Doom. This is not them. So the pick that I'm going to go with is Demolition, which was in their later years, which was 1990, made up of 3 members, fondly named Axe, Smash, and Crush. Growing up, I remember this was my favorite tag team. And I don't know why. I think it's because, so at heart, like in real life, I'm a big fan of heavy metal. And I think at the time, the look, the music, everything about these guys just screamed that. In hindsight, it kind of screams some other things too, but those were really the big ones. So,
did they start in Japan? Does anybody know? Did I read that
They
or
didn't
hear that
start.
somewhere?
Axe was a big. He was all over the world. He was what the masked no, crap. I
The
can't. He was
Repo
some,
Man?
No, that was
he was.
that's the other guy.
One of
No,
them.
Axe was the older guy, and he was a masked wrestler, like a big name for a long time, and that
Okay,
might have
okay.
spilled over and into the into Japan. He was
Sorry,
the masked. He was the masked superstar.
Gotcha.
Anyway,
Didn't mean to cut you off there. I just wanted to see if we could get the timeline of when these guys, because I remember them very fondly too. I mean, they were interesting. I mean, not a lot of guys were wearing face paint plus leather
bondage outfits.
Yeah, thanks for saying it, Steve. I didn't know if I wanted to go there or not tonight, but they're big men in bondage outfits too. There was nothing small about these dudes. But yeah, they tore it up.
I was a huge Demolition fan too. That's a good. Yeah, they the naysayers like said they were just Road Warrior rip-offs, which the Bruce Pritchards of the world and that deny vehemently. And I don't know if they were or weren't, but if they started off that way, they certainly came into their own because they were just badass. And I just like my good friend of mine and I, they were like our favorite team for years, and just the music and everything. Yeah, they were awesome.
Totally. They so a couple things before we started talking about these guys, I did do some quick Googling. So just some quick facts. They debuted in WWF in 1987. And supposedly in 1990, I think it was Axe or Smash. I can't remember which one was having some health issues. It may have been
Axe
at the time.
It was Axe.
Okay. So they brought in Crush as just sort of a fill-in to defend the tag team titles with Smash in 1990. But it ended up going over so well that they sort of just kept all three guys together, almost like Iron Maiden, or almost like a New Day, but like a really like S&M version of the New Day, I guess.
Yeah. Wasn't Mr. Fuji with them too?
He started off with them until he betrayed them. Yeah. He was their manager, and then he turned on him and managed the Powers of Pain, and then Demolition turned face.
Oh, very good. Very good.
I actually watched a match with Demolition the other night. And it's crazy to watch it because the crowd is going insane for some of the most basic wrestling moves you can imagine, like a simple axe handle off the top rope where they're barely making an effort to jump down. You'd think the guy just did like a Spanish fly or something. So
right.
Did you know you brought up Axe having health problems? Do you remember the story of that?
I'm gonna look quick.
I could tell you because I know.
Oh, okay. Then do tell.
He was old, older, but he was having what they thought were heart problems, so they were going to kind of phase him out. But it turned out it was some crazy like reaction to like shellfish when he was in Japan that kind of built up over time. So it was not like a heart problem. It was like this shellfish thing that with like shrimp or something. But it was just weird. Yeah. But then he came back. And funny enough, I think they're still they were still wrestling as of like 5-10 years ago.
I think it was in 2017, at least according to Wikipedia, that they called it quits officially.
Oh,
so,
that's probably for the best.
You were pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah, they held the David Heroes GLCW titles for years.
Yeah.
Nice.
As a matter of fact, Charlie, I don't know if I saw them as part of GLCW, but I remember when I was in college, for whatever reason, pro wrestling came my freshman year. And I remember Axe was there as one of the guys wrestling. Like he wasn't with Smash or any of the members of Demolition, but he was there in singles competition. It was really interesting to see just because I had been such a huge fan of Demolition growing up. But yeah, age had definitely caught up with him at the time.
He didn't look the same, I'm sure.
No, it's similar, but not quite how I remembered.
And shout out to the Repo Man. That was one of my favorite guys because me, I didn't have cable, so I had to watch a lot of Superstars, and Superstars was full of just, the bottom of the barrel and all the characters and the promos. And he was just so funny, like, I'm going to steal your car after I beat the shit out of you.
Such a far cry from Smash.
Oh, I know. I was like, who the hell is this guy?
It would have been interesting to see Repo Man versus the Shockmaster.
Oh
Just
my
a
god.
complete
Well-
train wreck of a match.
And I don't know if you guys remember, but Smash went to WCW for a while where he played the Blacktop Bully.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I totally remember that.
Well, he was just I mentioned to you guys the Dusty or when
Dustin.
Dustin Rhodes was on the flat top trailer haystack match. They were on a freaking semi,
Like a
going-
moving set truck. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was him.
It went on for like 25 minutes.
And I think
was like,
I think
oh,
he got fired from that because they bladed and they weren't supposed to or something like
Oh shit!
there was something they did in that match they weren't supposed to and they were told not to do. And I think that's
They
part of
got
why he
blood on
fired.
the hay.
Yeah.
They got blood on the hay and they had to return it.
You can never say never in wrestling, but people are always like, how are they not in the Hall of Fame? Well, because there was a class action lawsuit they were part of, and anybody associated with that ongoing lawsuit has pretty much not been put in the Hall of Fame. So,
Oh, was it the brain damage one?
Yeah.
Concussion? Okay.
and they were part of that. So, I mean, maybe time will heal all wounds, but that's why why you're not going to put somebody in the Hall of Fame who's suing you.
Yeah, no.
Hopefully they forget because demolition needs to
Oh.
be in there.
Oh, I thought that was a
They
joke
won't
about
forget
like
with
brain
the
damage.
concussion, so.
It was.
It was okay. Wow.
Anywho, Charlie, do we got something for us?
No, nothing yet. Nothing corner yet.
What?
We got a Lashley versus Sheamus match, but
Oh,
That's a good
well,
match.
in that case, I guess we can take a quick intermission because it's no time for Charlie's Corner. Charlie, it's Monday. It's Raw. What's happening?
I can't really tell. I know we got a Sheamus versus Lashley match. I'm not sure it's for the title. What's the Scottish dude's name? He's sitting ringside watching.
McIntyre?
Yeah, with his kilt on. So
Hmm.
I'm not sure where they're going with this because I saw something. Did they already announced Lashley versus?
I think I heard that. Yeah,
Yeah,
With Lashley and McIntyre at
Yeah.
WrestleMania. But the question is, will they do a triple threat with Sheamus or not?
Hmm.
Oh god.
What I saw was just those two, but you never know.
Well, I think there's rumors that they're going to do a
card
triple
subject
threat
to change.
with- Yeah. Well, that's
course.
WWE's never-ending story.
Yes.
And with that, this has been Charlie's Corner.
But you know what? I wonder though. What makes it interesting? Will they take that title off of Lashley that fast?
That would be lame. I think Lashley deserves to run with it.
Yeah, I
for a
know.
while.
So do I. But
Yeah, I feel
give
like
him
they
30 days.
should leave it on him because, I mean, Drew's been champ for almost a year.
yeah,
And he's pretty much done it all. So
Yeah, I
think
know.
it's time to change it up a little bit.
Lashley's not a young man. It's his time.
yeah, he's like 40,
43 or something.
43,
Yeah.
44. Yeah,
He looks like $1 million. I'll
with
tell
the
you.
body of a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Charlie, do you have a favorite faction you want to bring up for us tonight?
It's a hard call on favorite faction for me. The one that probably got me, the one that got me back into wrestling on my last run here that kept me going, probably NWO. I mean, I
Mhm.
love that. I love that faction. If I had to go all time best that did it, the Horsemen, man.
Which ones?
Yep.
Which
The
which
original.
team?
I would go with the original Horsemen were awesome, but I'd go with Arn Tully, and Perry and Wyndham.
That's the ones that made it into the Hall of Fame. Yep.
Yeah, that's
Wyndham.
probably the one. But I like the original too. But the one where they probably did the most work was with that crew. Second greatest Horseman crew is Steve McMichael.
Yeah.
Chris-
Mongo.
Jesus.
Mongo Mondays. Shout
Yep.
out to WrestleBotch, our favorite Instagram follow.
Well,
Mongo
Yeah,
Mondays
so,
are awesome.
So
I
I
mean-
feel like you guys bring up this guy quite a bit. And I honestly have just kind of laughed along and in the back of my mind been like, who the hell is this guy? Wow, whatever.
What?
So today, no
Go
joke,
on.
like hours ago, I was just cruising through Instagram, killing a few minutes, and
Yeah.
I did see a WrestleBotch clip
Oh,
of this guy wrestling.
Oh,
Mike, you and I, who have not been trained, could put on a WrestleMania quality
Yeah.
match compared to this guy.
Now
It's just
listen.
amazing.
He should have been.
Mongo's gonna wrestle.
he shouldn't have been in the ring, dude.
They
No.
just,
But yeah.
I mean, Flair gives him credit in that he personality wise,
Oh yeah, he was
he
a
totally
horseman.
matched.
Yep.
But unfortunately, in the ring, he was just dreadful, and he never
Oh,
got
yeah.
better.
The sad thing was too, he was in like the best of times when WCW was so strong. I mean, you had Benoit, you had
Yep.
Flair in his prime,
Oh,
you had
Malenko, all those guys.
Malenko, everybody that was just so technically strong. Guerrero, Mysterio. I mean, the list goes on and on.
yeah.
The dude
Alex
was
Shelley.
just, oh my God. WrestleBotch, Mongo Mondays, just follow the hashtag. You'll thank me later. Yeah,
For
but
sure.
no, NWO too, Charlie, you brought
I'd
up.
probably
I mean,
probably NWO for like that's why I'm still watching wrestling to this day was that NWO angle because that got me back into wrestling. It got me
Yep.
watching Raw when it became the Attitude Era. It was just
yep.
what they call it? The golden. I don't know if it's silver or golden, but it was a great age of wrestling right then.
Yeah, totally
Oh,
agree.
big time. Well, it pushed WWF to match the ratings for WCW because everybody was just so tuned in. Because I mean, I was I think in like 6th grade when that was happening. So when they said, "We're taking over, brother," I was like, wow, Hulk Hogan, old Razor
Turn
Ramon, and
heel?
old Diesel are literally taking over the show. Like,
Yeah,
I
'cause
bought
it was-
big time.
Yeah, it was. I kind of bought it too, and even though I was older, I'm kind of like, "What's going?" It was so good. You
Well-
couldn't figure out
well, when
what's
they-
really going on. You knew that they weren't just going to run on the show, but they did it so
Yes.
well that you didn't know what was going on, kind of.
Mhm.
And it was
Kind
a
of,
great time.
kind of calling out WCW as like old and southern. I mean, they were actually
Yep.
using the rips on them like that
Yep.
you wouldn't
Mhm.
expect like in house.
Well, and they would change like the color of the TV. If you're watching at home, it would
Yeah.
turn to black and white. They would come out with the so awesome. They would use the spray paint on the belts, deface
Yeah.
the belts. I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. And then they would just run roughshod over anybody that got in the way, and they did not give a fuck. And
Yeah.
everybody and their mom had an NWO t-shirt at that
Oh, yeah.
time.
Yep.
I mean, it was as popular
There's
as the
a-
Bullet Club T-shirt at that All
it
In
was way
show that we
more.
saw.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You go to almost any show, you'll see an NWO shirt.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
real.
Mhm.
There's a reason why when I never got, when I was in early college when the NWO was going, and I didn't have money, but there's a reason why when I joined the WWE network day one, and then for everybody that joined day one and that was still a member a year later, they gave you a $25 gift card to the shop. First thing I bought was
NWO
NWO material. I bought a hoodie. I still got it.
for life, brother.
Yeah, for
Love
life.
it, dude. That's a good
Not to-
purchase.
Not to shift gears on you guys, but Charlie, before you mentioned the NWO, or it may have been after, you mentioned the Four Horsemen.
Yep. After.
So I've heard a lot about them just based on watching AEW, us talking about wrestling all the time. I guess if I wanted to go back and kind of get a handle on what was their best stuff.
Dusty Rhodes feud.
Yep,
Okay.
Go watch the Dusty Rhodes
that's
feud.
the best one. And then there's
Dude, it
some
was
other
the
ones like
best, dude.
because
It
they
looked-
broke his
because it
arm
looked
and like a
real,
car.
dude. They broke his arm. And
They broke
shit.
his arm in a car door.
Dude,
Yeah.
that's fucking great, dude.
And then another,
Yeah.
that's the best. I mean, the feud with Dusty, and then by proxy, like Magnum TA and the Road Warriors.
Yeah,
Those are some of
another-
the best stuff.
yeah.
The War Games matches involving the Horsemen. But another good one too is when they duped Sting into like joining, like or like there was a breakup
Yep.
thing, and
Oh,
like, it
yeah,
looked
I
like
forgot about
and then
that.
it was the whole time it was a swerve, and then when the big
Yeah.
moment, they all turned on him and kicked his ass, and it was so
Yeah.
great.
Another
Nice.
great promo. Another like secondary feud that was good was Flair and Ricky Morton when they were taking on the Rocky.
Yeah.
Road. He cut a promo about women that Flair gets the women and Ricky gets the little girls and all this stuff, and
Yeah.
it's just great, dude. He's
Or,
just
if you want to
Oh,
see
yeah.
if you want to see like an all-time great match too, Matt, Tully Blanchard and Magnum TA was that I Quit match.
yeah.
It was
Okay.
like one of the
I've heard
all-time
Classic,
greats.
yeah.
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 Tully was so damn good. And he's apparently still is because we saw him
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago. It's in
But
the
yeah, if
70s.
you,
Drew
if
down.
you want to see Prime Horseman, go back and look at the
Yeah.
Dusty Rhodes feud.
Yeah, I'm gonna do
Nice.
that for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you
I
got me
think-
fired up, boys.
I think that's when, I mean, I think it's, obviously it's a classic feud, but I think that's the promo where he cut the hard times promo
Mhm.
on
I think you're
because he
right.
broke his arm and he was like out of work and stuff, trying to put him
Oh
out.
yeah,
Yeah. So
So
it's based on that. It's one of the greatest feuds of
if we
all
makes
time.
sense.
if we put
Yeah.
Mongo up as the worst horseman, do you know who's probably the second one? That I mean, well, maybe you younger guys don't even remember him, but do you remember that Paul Roma was a horseman?
Yeah, that was bad. That's when things were falling apart.
So
Yeah.
for those that don't know, Paul Roma was in the WWF for a number of years with Jim Powers as the Young Stallions.
Yeah.
And then
Oh.
Paul Roma formed a team. I actually loved the tag team, but
They were pretty
he
good.
turned heel and he teamed with Hercules as the Power and Glory,
Yeah, they were good.
which was a
actually,
fun
yeah.
team.
Yeah.
And then he went over to WCW and they way shotgunned him way too high and they put him
Yeah.
in a horseman and everybody's like, what the hell? This guy's not worthy of the horseman.
Awesome.
And then he had a
Tough
team
boys.
with Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff as Pretty Wonderful, and I think they actually won the titles. But that's a diversion.
It's like Pretty Peter Avalon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Or the Golden Lovers.
the Golden Lovers. Yeah. So, you guys took all the obvious ones, but
Yeah.
there's an honorable mention one that I had to make sure I bring up. I think it's from maybe the early mid 90s, but like really a pretty freaking awesome stable. Do you remember the Dangerous Alliance in
Oh, yeah, with
WCW?
Paul, those
Paul
guys,
Heyman.
yeah.
And it was, I
Yeah.
mean, let me read to you the members of this team.
Yeah, it
I
was a
mean, it's
good
all
team.
it's all Hall of Famers,
Oh
basically.
yeah.
Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton, Larry Zbyszko, Medusa, Michael Hayes, Rick Rude, Steve Austin.
Yeah, say Austin. It
Damn.
was Pillman wasn't it? I knew
Pillman
Austin.
wasn't in it, but Steve
Okay.
Austin, the future Stone Cold, was in it, and they were.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah, I
a
remember
pretty
that.
damn good team. And
Yeah,
they,
stacked.
yeah,
I'll tell you another faction that was good that a lot of people don't know about. This is another odd one. Was it I don't know what they call them, but it was basically the Dudley Boys faction. And EC in the original ECW, I think they were they were the Dudley Boys, but they had a whole faction of
Yeah, there was
guys with Joe Gertner. Dude, if you go back and look at some of Bubba Ray's and Devon's promos to the crowd, cussing them out, daring people to get in the
Yeah.
ring. Dude, it's
Yeah.
hard. It's
They would-
hardcore,
they would-
dude.
yeah,
It's
they would.
hardcore.
There was no censorship on those.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I mean, there was little kids ringside, and they were.
Yeah, Google that. Google one of those promos, Mike or Matt.
Yeah.
You'll see some heat. I'll tell you one
Right.
more. I'm monopolizing it. Another good one of my favorite factions of all time. I bought their t-shirt, was in ECW, was FBI, full-blooded Italians.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Only one guy was Italian. It was just the most hilarious gimmick as hilarious. And the BWO too. I got the BWO Blue World Order. I got that.
Yep.
I got those t-shirts. But yeah, some of the funniest, most entertaining factions came out of ECW to me.
This is so much
Big time.
stuff. So I've been
Yeah.
taking notes on the podcast as I do while we record these, but I have a side list going of things I need to go back and watch too.
You'll
Yeah.
enjoy them. You'll enjoy them. They're good.
For sure. The full-blooded Italians were so fun.
The
I
great,
actually
like-
remember.
It'd be like
Yeah,
Tracy
yeah, they would do-
Smothers with the Southern
Tracy
accent.
Smothers.
Yeah, they're all Southerner walking around.
Slick back hair.
Oh,
And
I wish I wouldn't. I don't know. I wish I wouldn't have thrown that T-shirt away because it was the best. People would look at me like, "You're not full-blooded Italian," but it was like a wrestling. I'd wear it around. It was just the best T-shirt, dude. FBI with the red. What was it? The red, green, and white.
That's
with
the
Italian
flag colors.
flag.
Yep.
That was so good. And you cannot find a replica of that T-shirt anywhere. And I've tried off and on for the last 10 years to try to find that
On-
T-shirt.
Wow.
honestly, dude, I remember the morning that we talked about them on the coffee cart. I remember
Yeah.
you brought it up, and I was like, "Did you check eBay?" And we're like looking together, like while we're drinking
Yeah.
coffee,
I
trying to
think
find
someone
one of these
had
t-shirts.
one, like a used, like medium or small somewhere. They were wanting
Mm.
big money. I'm like, I can never wear it though. It'd be nice to have, but I wanted to I
Right.
can wear it. Yeah.
Yeah, man, you won't see those factions ever again doing it like the way they did in ECW.
Yeah.
But another faction that you'll never see ever again, and probably one of my favorites of all time, is the Nation of Domination.
Yeah, that was
in the
great,
Attitude
dude.
Era.
Yeah.
They were unbelievable. I mean, so
Yep. When the- I
Ron
think-
Simmons, what a guy.
Legend.
This
Yep. When that-
because what they tried to do with him in the WWF was so dumb when they made him be Farouk with
Yep.
just the silver
Wasn't it like an-
helmet.
Yeah, it was almost like a
Gladiator
gladiator
kind of
thing. It was
thing.
so
yeah,
weird.
he looked
Yeah.
like a freaking extra in a Roman movie in fucking Gladiator. Russell Crowe. Shout out Russell Crowe for listening.
Thanks, Russell.
Thank you, Russell. They needed to do something with Farouk because he is an all-time legend, the first African-American champ. I mean, mad respect to Ron Simmons, but he was the perfect guy to lead this faction. They kind of played on the Black Panther movement. They're wearing like the Africa Bambaataa gear, the color, the Zulu Nation colors. They had the muscle with Mark Henry. They had, the street like ruggish and thuggish of Kama, formerly Papa Shango, later on
Your Godfather.
the Godfather.
Oh, the
And
Godfather.
Didn't they have D'Lo?
Yeah, D'Lo.
they had
was the
D'Lo
other guy.
Brown, which is
Yep.
why
The
I loved
worker.
him so much
Oh, yeah.
because
Yeah.
because of his
His head.
neck movements, and he would just
Do his
move
head,
it around. I would imitate him, wiggling my shoulders when I would be like
He's great. Yeah.
wrestling with my friends. He was so funny.
Yep.
And then guess who they brought in?
When
The
that was
young
great.
Lion,
That was great.
Rocky Maivia.
When they had heat, dude, it was because what is the promo? He did a thing when the Rocket fight started taking over. He gave I can't remember what I think the Rock, that's when the Rocks just started getting cocky. He gave Farouk a gift. And I think he gave everybody great gifts, and he gave like Farouk like a picture of him or something.
Oh yeah, it
It's
was
just hilarious.
I totally
dude.
forgot about that bit.
Yeah, he gave him
gives-
Rolexes or
remembers the
something, yeah.
nation of a $15,000 Rolex.
Yeah,
And
Rolex.
then
Yeah, I
he gives
remember.
Farouk, a picture of The Rock.
Yeah, dude, it
It
was
was
so
just
good.
so
That-
great.
When he
Well-
when he took over and started kicking Farouk out, that was one of the best angles, dude. It was so
Well,
good.
Like I
So
mentioned in
good.
the beginning of the show, this is what launched The Rock to turn
Oh, totally.
on the Nation of Domination to go off on his solo
Yep.
career,
Oh,
and the rest
totally.
is literally history.
Oh, totally.
Now he's the most
Yep.
popular actor in Hollywood.
Yep.
Started from the Nation of Domination, baby.
Yep.
Hats
Yep.
off to them. And
Yep.
remember those white rappers that they had? They were looking like Kid Rock. Well, they had their song, their theme song. It was like,
We are the nation. of domination.
when that hit,
Yep.
that was awesome. And then
Yep.
the beat drops. Then you had
Yep.
like these white rappers come out and like one of the lines was, "We'll cross diss your mother" or something like
Okay,
that.
yeah.
We are the nation. Come alive in color. Don't diss the man. Overblown, rush your mother. Now listen what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
dude.
were good.
Yeah,
it was great.
early Nation of Domination. They were around all the
Early,
time.
Yep. Early, yep. It was good.
So I love them, and that was in the Attitude Era, right?
Yep.
Oh yeah,
right
for
in
sure.
the
It was
beginning.
actually right before it, and then
Right in
turned
the
into
beginning.
it,
Yep.
I think.
Right before it. Yep.
Mike, your impression of their theme song was so spot on. It actually
Yep.
made me laugh off
We are the
Mike a
nation.
little bit.
of domination.
Dude, I loved it. I actually met Ron Simmons. I told
Oh,
you
did
this
you?
a couple times.
Oh, yeah, at the
yeah,
bar,
yeah.
yeah.
So he runs like his own promotion, like a small promotion, and he was at Serb Hall, and I got my picture taken with him. Maybe I'll post that to Instagram after the show. But he also went to the Drunk Uncle, my favorite bar, and a big supporter of Keep the Kayfabe. I got to talk to him, but I get so excited at those shows, aka I get so drunk. I just wish I didn't, because I just wanted to talk to Ron Simmons about some real good shit. All I could remember of talking to him about was just like,
Remember that one
like,
time? Yeah, remember that one time you did this?
yeah,
That
he's
was
not gonna
cool.
know. I can't
Remember when
remember
you and
what I said.
Bradshaw
I'm
were
so mad
playing
at
cards
myself.
and protecting Trish Stratus?
Dude, that was cool too. I like that. Ron Simmons.
I would
is
have
the
asked
man.
him about his tag team with the late Butch Reed as Doom.
There you go. See? Well, hopefully after COVID, we can get him back in the bar and we all can go there and we can finally have a serious conversation.
For
yeah,
sure.
sober.
Yeah, Steve, Did we get? I think I stole the Freebirds off of your plate.
I took
Did you get to one
because
yet?
you guys, I had on my list, I had the Horsemen, the NWO, the Freebirds. So when you guys covered those, which I'm glad you did, that's when I brought up my sleeper pick, the Dangerous Alliance.
Yeah,
But
that's a good one.
Gotcha.
I mean, you got to mention some of the ongoing, like, I mean, I'm not going to pretend to have a lot of knowledge. I'm just learning right now. But how about the Bullet Club or the
Bullet Club is
those-
one of the tops.
Los
too, yeah.
Ingobernables de Japón, and some of those teams going on right now that are still going strong.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Like, I think the Bullet Club is probably the most notable faction to cross promotions.
When
More
they,
so
yeah,
than
they were
others.
hot when they first came out, dude.
Yeah, they've kind of had ups and downs, but I mean,
Yep.
they haven't gone away. I mean, their presence can be felt on both Impact and AEW now. I mean, they even teased it in WWE. When Finn Balor was teaming up with Good Brothers, and it seemed like he was going to start like
AJ.
a new the Balor Club and all that. And
Yeah, I feel like the Bullet Club is pretty much a place that every wrestler now has been a part of. That's part of WWE or AEW. There's just so many people who have been in the Bullet Club.
It's only been a few. I mean, you're talking.
our
Finn,
first argument.
You're just talking. I mean, when you think about it, you're only talking Finn and AJ, and the Good Brothers,
And
then
Omega.
WWE. That was it.
Yeah.
Nobody else was.
And Omega and
Well, Omega's in
Balor.
AEW
and the Young Bucks.
and the Young Bucks. That's it.
So it's only like only 10 people.
Whoa.
Over time, well, you get it. And Hangman Adam Page was Bullet Club North America, but what would happen is when Finn signed to go to WWE, they kicked his ass, kicked him out. Same with AJ, guys got kicked out. So it wasn't like it's not just let everybody in. It's it's a pretty tight faction out. It's nowhere near.
Not like the NWO.
It's nowhere
God.
near NWO.
The NWO got
Nowhere.
absurd.
Yeah,
Wait,
right.
you mean the Latino World Order or the Wolf Pack?
Yeah.
Or,
Wolfpack and the Blue World Order.
NWO
And-
Hollywood.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to the
NWO
Latino
2000.
World Order. Hey,
Yeah.
let's talk about the Latino World Order for a second here. Remember who was in that? Conan, Juventud Guerrero, Eddie had to have been in there, right?
Eddie was in there.
Yeah.
I mean, they were pretty good.
Yeah.
In hindsight, great group of guys for
They
sure.
would have been
I'm
even
Goog-
better
let
with
me
El
Google-
Dandy.
Let me see who was in the
who's that,
Latino
Steve?
World Order. I bet it was pretty good.
While Mike's looking that up, Steve, who was the guy you just
Hey,
mentioned?
I just said
was-
they would have been even better with El Dandy. I
Yep.
mean, honestly, if you want to see one of Bret Hart's greatest promos, he didn't have a memorable run when all was said and done in WCW, but one of his greatest promos was he was interviewed by Mean Gene, and Bret was the heel champion
dude.
at the time, and they were asking him who he's going to challenge next. And, you're expecting he's going to take on Goldberg or some big name, and he's like, "No, I'm going to tell you who my next challenger is going to be. It's going to be El Dandy, who is like this cruiserweight,
Dude.
and
El Dandy was in there.
Yeah, oh, he was okay. And then, and then Mean Gene, in his perfect Mean Gene outrage, is like, "El Dandy, he was a cruiserweight." And then Bret's like, "How dare you speak ill of El Dandy? He's a real jam up guy." And he goes on this whole promo about El Dandy. It's just great. I'm not doing it justice, but it was just at the time it was hysterical.
Good pick.
Oh, dude. El Dandy is he's still alive too. He retired in
course he is.
2014, but El Dandy was in Latino
that
World Order. Eddie Guerrero was the leader. Rey Mysterio, Juventud Guerrero, Psychosis, La Parca,
Good. That's good.
Silver
too.
King, Villano V. I don't know some of these other ones. Hector Garza.
It was come on, it was Villano 5.
Villano, sorry. And Damien, not to be confused with Damien Mysterio. But I know Conan was in there too. Distinctly. I don't know why he wasn't listed on here, but I mean, that's a pretty solid lineup right there.
I like that. Damian Mysterio, not to be confused with the long lost evil brother of Dominic Mysterio.
Yes.
My bad, yo.
Yeah.
That,
Or deep-
that was my botch of the night. You know I botch a name.
Or
That's-
90s.
I do it on purpose just to, keep you guys,
It wouldn't
you know,
be
paying
it wouldn't be
attention.
keep the kayfabe without a name botch here and there.
Or not to be confused with the short-lived heel in the 90s. I think who had named Damian Demento. You remember that guy?
Yeah, yeah.
He was on Raw. I think he had the distinction of being in the first Raw main event. He got beat by the Undertaker.
Nice. Good
Wait,
piece of info
break
right
out.
there.
Yeah, I'm full of useless information.
You'll be.
What about the-
You could be glad to know that. Was googling some of these factions, and like you named the Dangerous Alliance, and you'll be glad to know that New Day and the Shield were rated higher than them.
Oh, that's great. That's just great.
You're out of your fucking mind, dude. You're out of your fucking mind. New Day and the Shield, please. They can't. They had them like in the top 3. I'm like, boy,
I know.
I'm sure WWE had nothing to do with that, or some
for
kid
sure.
who's 12.
Oh, I know. Well, the person writing it was probably like 23 years old. And
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like, dude, the colors, and then, well, I mean, the
They
Shield.
put their fist in and pancakes and dancing. Black guys dancing. It's great. It's a great faction.
Yeah, did you,
Right.
Charlie? We missed the potential Charlie's Corner there because if I'm not mistaken, Xavier Wood and Kofi just won the Raw Tag Team
Oh,
titles
they did?
again tonight. Yeah,
Okay, I didn't know.
I
for
heard
like
rumors that might
for the
happen.
300th time.
They are. Well, that puts them as one of the greatest tag teams. Forget your Road Warriors.
Forget
Dudley
Demolition.
Boys, your Hardy Boys.
Oh, that just shows that you can't defend it, Gorilla. That doesn't make them very good.
That
That's my
shows that
Jesse
the New
Ventura
Day are one
impression.
of the hottest things going, dude.
In
Ever.
30 years,
God.
everyone's going to be like, oh man, these tag teams these days. Y'all ever watch this old promo from The New Day?
And they came out with cereal.
Yeah.
Cereal.
Pancakes.
That's mint. That
They
is
threw-
mint.
They threw
And a
pancakes
trombone.
at the crowd.
Have you ever heard of Bootios?
Yeah.
So just to shift
Have you
gears,
ever heard of minstrel shows?
so I do have another
hope not.
faction I'm going to throw out there real quick.
30 years.
Just to move a little more into the late 90s. I know this one is going to immediately draw heat. We had talked about this a little bit before the podcast. So because of all that, I'm not going to mention Degeneration X just yet. I'm actually going to throw out another faction, the corporate ministry of which
I thought you were
so
going to
for-
say the oddities.
oh god, no, that we wouldn't have anything to talk about.
No, we really wouldn't.
No, they're like, what is there to say there?
Golga.
Yeah. But anyway, so the corporate ministry. So for those of you who were more WCW fans, I'll just give you the 10-second rundown of what this was. So The Undertaker in the late 90s started his own faction, the Ministry of Darkness, had a lot of lower mid-card guys start to follow him, just kind of muscle to keep around. Meanwhile, Vince McMahon was feuding with The Undertaker, or so we thought. So he and Shane McMahon started amassing their own faction, which they called the Corporation, because, well, it's Vince McMahon. What do you expect? Eventually, these two factions started to merge together, and Vince, for whatever reason, was on the outs with them. Shane thought it was a good idea. So you end up with this faction of like 15 to 20 guys, and their entire role was to make Stone Cold Steve Austin's life miserable. So this whole storyline thread with these factions led up to the 6 months payoff where, through a double twist, not unlike what we saw in AEW Dynamite this past week, we see Vince McMahon get unmasked and with the famous promo, "It's me, Austin. It was me all along, Austin," who does nothing but this just to make Stone Cold's life a living hell. And the best twist at the end is Stone Cold Steve Austin at the end of the night is named as the new CEO of WWE. So he still gets one over on Vince McMahon. Just a great storyline, faction worth mentioning. They will not be remembered by everyone, but definitely played a big part in most of the storyline in 1999 WWF Attitude Era.
Good pick.
Nice run down there.
So let's
Matt.
talk about DX. So
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, it has to come up. I mean, it has to come up because WWE did a whole documentary where they were listed as the greatest faction of all time.
Yeah.
So it has to be legit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I seen a bunch of them saying that DX. I'm like,
I
maybe
mean,
top,
let's
top
let
10.
let's let Matt set this up. We'll
so-
give him his due.
So yeah, I'll set it up. You guys can tear it down. So, I've mentioned this on past episodes. I'm a huge WWE guy, even to this day. I mean,
I mean,
yeah, does it suck?
It's not a guy. It's called a mark. It's a mark.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Am I a mark? Yes. Does the product suck? Absolutely. Am I going to keep following it? Always.
Oh
So-
yeah.
So in the late 90s, D-Generation X was the faction if you were a WWF fan. I remember watching it. It's just they had the coolest entrance, the coolest colors, like really edgy.
Entrance is cool.
It was just an interesting group of guys where they were
And
all
girl.
relatable. Yes, including China. They were all relatable in some way
China.
or another. You had X-Pac, who was light on his feet, martial arts kicks, sort of reminds you of your one friend from elementary school who was always getting in trouble. You had Triple H, who just, even to this day, I hate, but like at the time, you couldn't help but like him. You had the New Age Outlaws, who were one of the most over tag teams of that era. And then you had China, who was just very unique, especially for the women's division. So 5 people all together. They had
Hey,
cool.
You forgot my
pyro,
favorite wrestler of all time.
Who's that?
You forgot HBK, bro.
Oh my God. Yes.
Oh yeah, heartbreak.
Sorry, I'm thinking of DX 2.0, where it was a faction of like 5 guys.
But the
not just
original too,
HBK.
it was cool. The original DX with Rick Rude, Hunter,
Yes.
Yeah,
and Sean
that's right.
was cool. That was very cool.
Rick Rude.
Yeah, that was very cool.
I forget about that to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started watching right after I think that part dissolved. When
Yeah.
Triple H one night came out, I think HBK was sidelined with an injury. And
Okay.
Triple H came out, basically said, we're going to keep carrying on, and then introduced X-Pac or the 1-2-3 kid, depending on how
Yep.
you remember him.
He was
But
excellent.
yeah, it was one of those things where my take on it is, if you watch WWF in the late 90s, in your mind, DX was the best faction of all time. They were the NWO of WWF. Were they different? Oh yeah, like in every way conceivable, but it was sort of the equivalent on the other side of the aisle.
They
Yeah,
were
they were
entertaining,
drawn.
but I wouldn't put them as one of the greatest. They were good. They were entertaining at times. A little too. I mean, they were catering to a young Matt with some of the childish,
Right.
suck it and the wiener gags and all that stuff.
Totally.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's when like drawing was like they were the draw. Like this, they were the show. When you turned on Raw, you were turning on for them too. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what put them up against NWO. And remember when they tried to storm,
Invade.
take over
Invade,
Nitro with the tank, and that was
which is
freaking
one of-
awesome.
Well, and it's one of Eric Bischoff's biggest regrets because he's
They
like,
let him in.
he said, if I could
Yeah.
go back in time, I would have let him in because how would that
Yeah,
not
you're
be
right.
good television?
Yeah.
You're right,
Oh, yeah.
dude.
Yeah,
I
he
remember him
totally,
saying
he
that.
totally should have done that because
Yeah.
would they have
That'd
backed
been
down or
great,
what?
dude.
Yeah,
That'd have been great.
Big time. But I mean, I remember my friend who did have cable, he taped it. I mean, we watched that Raw over and over and over. I mean, when X-Pac was on the tank with like the cannon of the tank between his legs.
His
I mean,
legs.
when you're in 6th, 7th grade, you think that's the funniest shit ever. And then they have like the heat sinking missile and it's black and white. And when they let the missile go, it's like, suck it. And like, again, we brought up Al Snow last week. It was what does everybody want? Head and
Yeah.
suck it. I mean, when you're a little kid, you are just, I mean, they
I
hit us
think-
and they hit us hard.
I
the
think
2
we've
best
hit on.
acts of Monday Night Raw right there.
I think we've hit upon maybe the problem, like the disagreement here is because it's the age,
It's the
probably
age.
the gap.
Absolutely.
Because I
Absolutely.
found them, I mean, when they really hit their stride is when WCW was starting to fade. And then I'll admit, I kind of dropped off of wrestling for years. And I always found that era to be kind of, and I am by no means a prude, but I just found wrestling to get really crass, like in a, to me, kind of
Oh, they
lame way. So I didn't get it. I didn't like it. And I
Well,
think the other part that clouds my judgment on DX is when it was just Shawn and Hunter years later, because it just like was sad to me. It's like they come these
40-year-old guy,
these two
30
dudes in their 40s
Little,
doing like
you
the
know.
high school or the college prank stuff. And
Yeah.
it kind of looked pathetic. That wasn't DX in its heyday, so it's not fair to me to judge them from that. But I keep thinking of that and like how like kind of lame they were when they got older.
Well, when they were new, I will say this again. I think they were pioneers in a lot of ways. Like we were talking about the New Day before, you know, like when they're on the mic backstage, getting the crowd hyped up and having like this or like having this synchronized chant between crowd and wrestler when they're not actually out there yet. I mean, DX did that. They had like their own song, just like NWO had. They changed, like if you're watching it on TV, they had like these graphics of like counterculture, break it down, you know. They had like
Yeah,
their
all
own,
kinds of
it was
stuff,
an
yeah.
attitude. I mean, they literally were the attitude era. It was a lifestyle, if you want to talk about it. I mean, if Monster Energy drinks existed back then, and you know, it would just be like this whole thing, hot topic. It just it was just so sellable. And when there wasn't any cell phones for you to be distracted, you bought in. It wasn't up to you. I mean, everybody was watching at the time. And if you liked wrestling, they were what to watch. And if you weren't watching WCW, you're watching WWF, and they were the show, like I said. So I think that's just how influential they were, just on like a consumerism level too. And why they were so big. But also they had one thing that the NWO didn't have. They had the ninth wonder of the world, China. And she was fucking crazy for the time. I mean, she was jacked. Weren't her and Hunter actually married? Were they
Not
really
married. No,
or-
they were dating until for a while, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Before he was with Stephanie. I thought for some reason they were married, but you know, even
No,
that was kind of like
she married X-Pac, I think. Her, that's her,
well, I know they
that's
made
her-
a sex tape.
Yep, they made a sex tape. That's after Hunter
One
dished
Night
it
in
and
China.
X-Pac took her. They made a porn, One Night in China. After he,
Another thing
after,
to look up.
After he
Yeah,
was
I was
done
gonna
with
say
her-
I'm updating my notes as we speak.
Yeah.
after Triple H dumped her to try to move up the McMahon family tree, which worked out for him since he's a VP. He got rid of her, moved on.
Big time.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that's how you take over the company is marry the daughter.
Yep.
I will
Smart.
say this. I mean,
Job security.
I didn't like DX. We've established that. I couldn't stand Triple H probably until the NXT came, like where I realized he was running NXT, and like ever since then I've kind of had some, you know, measure respect for him. Plus, I think if he was running WWE, it would be infinitely better than Vince. But so I kind of have a respect for Triple H now, but yeah, I did not have it back then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. Well, boys, we covered a lot of ground tonight. A lot of generations, a lot of great factions and stables.
What about the 3-man band?
Yeah.
Look at that. I mean, 2 future world champions, Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal.
Yep. Yeah, it worked out for two job.
Oh.
Worked out for 3 job guys, and 2 of them decided to go the juice route, which really helped them. Which
Yeah.
really
Okay,
furthered their
so-
careers.
What about the what was the League of
Circle?
Nations?
Oh my
Oh,
God, that
God.
was so bad. Well, yeah, Alberto Del Rio, Wade Barrett, and
And Russ-
Sheamus, right?
Rusev was in it too, wasn't it?
Was he?
Yeah. And wasn't Jinder Mahal in it too, or no?
I don't think he was
Can't
part of that
remember.
group, but no,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
I will
Yeah.
go to my grave being a Jinder Mahal fan because he kept beating Randy Orton.
all right. What was like what is one faction that is like? I mean, we talked about some great ones. What ones were like the worst? Can you think of?
Well,
off
you
the
mentioned
top
the
of your head?
oddities.
The Oddities was one of them. The League of Nations was
How
one of them.
about Nexus? Remember
Yeah.
Nexus?
Garbage.
They just brought in a bunch of NXT guys so John Cena could beat them all.
Yeah.
Right.
This one's controversial. Evolution, I thought was garbage.
Yeah, I agree.
me
I
too.
don't think there's any controversy about that. I think
Okay.
WWE mostly tries to rewrite history with that because,
Yeah.
quite frankly, I was still watching when they became a faction, and I could not have cared less
Yeah.
about them. And just
And
the
they've
fact
made
that
a
they
lot
were
of
pushed
top.
as far as they were just did not make sense to me.
They made a lot of top tens on a lot of lists that I saw. I just did a quick Google search
WWE
just to see what's up
crap.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awful. I mean, when you have like a 60-year-old Ric Flair
Well,
in there,
that's
and-
why I think they make lists, because it's like nothing but Hall of Famers. So I think people have like rose colored, like it's like Randy Orton. I can't stand him, but obviously he's accomplished. Triple
Right.
H, all time great. Ric Flair, all time great. Batista, legend in his own right. So I think that's where people get clouded, but they weren't that good of a faction.
No.
no. Well, and they have a thing on the WWE Network, soon to be Peacock. The Evolution of Evolution is how they
Yeah.
called it, or something.
Crap.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you a faction that's pretty good. That if they weren't together, man, the show would be over. Undisputed Era. If it wasn't for those guys, dude,
Yeah.
that NXT'd be in a lot of trouble.
You're totally
You know,
right, Charlie.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought them up because, if NXT didn't have Undisputed Era to have like a good, because you don't see a lot of stables in NXT other than
Nope.
them.
Yeah.
So
There's Imperium or whatever, but I think
yeah,
those
short-lived.
all four of those guys help save the show because you take
time.
them, even though they're broke up, you take them out.
Mhm.
Who's your stars?
Hmm.
You really want to go see Killer Cross?
No,
You know?
just Scarlet.
No.
Scarlet. How about the Spirit
Well-
Squad? There's another bad one.
Yeah, I saw that one too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Undisputed Era, they have that thing, that connection with the crowd though, too, with the boom
Oh,
and
yeah.
the Adam Cole.
Boom!
That's just little, little
that's
stuff like
over,
that.
dude. That's over. It is over.
And a shirt is kind of like they have the logo, kind of like the Bullet Club. If you
Oh,
saw
yeah.
it out and about and you
Yep.
didn't know what wrestling was, you wouldn't know. But when you see an Undisputed Era shirt out
I
in the
got one.
wild on a Tuesday afternoon,
Yeah.
you're like, fuck yeah, dude. Me and you are bros.
Oh, so yeah, speaking of which, I in part from going to NXT shows and in part from that Slam Crate I got where I got shirts every time. Like I used to remember like a couple years ago we went to New York and like I brought a bunch of wrestling shirts to wear, and like I wore an Undisputed Era one when we went down like downtown New York. I got so many freaking people yelling out to me. This was like 4 years ago. But yeah, I mean
Nice.
they were the shit.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
At like 5 or 6, there was this woman on a motorcycle that started like giving me the thumbs up and stuff because of my
She
Undisputed
showed her
Era.
tits.
Yeah, practically.
It's crazy because I remember a few years back, similar to the experience you had, Steve, seeing someone wearing an Undisputed Era t-shirt, and I did not know them. And the Milwaukee pro wrestling community is pretty small, so this was kind of random. But I think I was out and about with Becky somewhere, and I see this guy wearing an Undisputed Era t-shirt, and I just gave him the thumb point to the head and was like, boom! And he knew immediately and just
So great.
That's awesome.
I really love when
That's
wrestling
awesome.
brings people together. It's
Totally.
like
Oh yeah.
we were years ago, we were at trivia at I forget which bar, and this little old guy, I was wearing my NWO hoodie, and this little
Oh,
old
yeah.
guy comes up to me and just talks my ear off about like the NWO. It's so great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's a guy I see at but you can't remember, is it at, I think it's at Home Depot over here by me. Whenever I wear that NWA shirt or NWO shirt, it's like, oh man, that's when wrestling was good. and
Yeah.
blah blah blah. Like
Yeah.
yeah, it was, man.
I wore my Andre the Giant facing off against Hulk Hogan t-shirt, Icon
Nice.
versus Icon
Yes.
t-shirt in Nashville on Broad Street, and holy shit did people freak out.
Oh,
about
I
that.
bet down in Nashville.
People were like
that's where
buying me
wrestling-
beers.
That's a wrestling town, brother.
Yeah, they were like buying me
It
beers.
is.
I'm like, yeah, I'm
Yep.
from Milwaukee. I love it down here. This is great. They're like,
I-
fuck yeah, brother.
They're like,
Gotta
hell
keep
yeah,
that in
you
mind.
Yankee.
You know what's funny? The shirt I got in the Slam Crate, I got a Roman Reigns shirt.
Oh my god.
that for kicks I've worn once in a while. Nobody's yelled and shouted at me for that one.
probably thinking they want to beat the hell out of you.
The Roman Empire. Oh my god.
You just get speared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hoo ha!
I
Yeah.
might spear if I see you in that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
that's
gonna-
really
yeah,
the
Yeah,
thing,
exactly.
right?
Oh, I don't want to. Oh, I don't want you cock. I might not if you're cocking the gun like.
Yeah, he's doing the fist.
I might
thing
not,
over.
dude. I might not take that because that's gonna bring that Superman.
Don't wear it
punch
to
up.
Key West.
Yeah. Wow.
Anywho, well, that was good shit, boys. We found
That was.
a lot of good deep cuts tonight, too, in our conversation of going over the greatest factions and stables. I always enjoy these greatest of shows. Really fun to get into stuff you just haven't thought about for years other than having these conversations. And we totally appreciate everybody who listens and subscribes to Keep the Kayfabe. Please follow us on Spotify, iTunes, and Google podcasts. We're all great podcasts are listened to. Follow us, and remember to follow us on Instagram also. Remember, boys, keep the kayfabe. Stay hungry, stay hard, stay humble, stay safe.
That's what she said. I said, baby, it's tough. I'm 50.